The enduring appeal of the streets of San Francisco rests not in its plot mechanics, but in its philosophical consistency, and under the interpretive banner of One Last Trick, the series can be seen as a sustained inquiry into how institutions and individuals negotiate truth in environments defined by complexity rather than clarity. From its earliest episodes, the show establishes a rhythm that privileges process over payoff, allowing investigations to unfold through accumulation rather than revelation, and this narrative strategy mirrors the lived experience of law enforcement more closely than dramatized heroics ever could. Mike Stone's character is central to this approach, embodying a form of authority that derives from self-awareness rather than certainty, and his interactions with suspects often feel less like interrogations and more like negotiations with reality itself. Steve Heller's presence injects energy and optimism, yet the series resists framing his perspective as either naive or superior, instead allowing the tension between him and Stone to illustrate how different coping strategies coexist within the same profession. One Last Trick becomes an apt title because it captures the recurring suggestion that every resolution involves an element of selective interpretation, a choice about which truths to emphasize and which to leave unspoken in order to move forward. The show's visual realism reinforces this idea, grounding each story in tangible locations that resist idealization, reminding viewers that crime and justice operate within the same everyday spaces as ordinary life. Unlike more stylized crime dramas, The Streets of San Francisco rarely isolates violence from its consequences, often lingering on the aftermath rather than the act itself, and this focus shifts attention from spectacle to impact. From a comparative perspective, the series stands apart from both its contemporaries and successors by refusing to frame law enforcement as a battle between intellects or wills, instead portraying it as an ongoing negotiation with systems that are inherently imperfect. One Last Trick also speaks to the emotional labor required to sustain belief in those systems, the subtle self-deception that allows professionals to continue working despite recurring evidence of limitation. Personal engagement with the series reveals how its understated tone invites reflection rather than adrenaline, encouraging viewers to consider their own relationship to authority, trust, and narrative closure. There is a quiet courage in the show's willingness to depict unresolved tension without apology, to suggest that meaning can exist without finality. This courage extends to its treatment of morality, which is rarely framed in binary terms, but rather as a spectrum shaped by circumstance, intention, and consequence. One Last Trick thus becomes less about deception and more about adaptation, about how individuals learn to function within environments that resist simplification. The series repeatedly demonstrates that justice is not a destination but a practice, one sustained through attention, humility, and restraint, qualities embodied most fully in Stone's character arc. By avoiding sensationalism, the show allows its themes to surface organically, creating a cumulative effect that feels richer with time rather than dated. In this way, The Streets of San Francisco anticipates later discussions about systemic limitation and ethical complexity, yet it does so without overt commentary, trusting viewers to draw connections themselves. One Last Trick ultimately names the central paradox of the series, that belief in order requires a degree of illusion, yet abandoning that belief entirely would render the pursuit of justice impossible. The show navigates this paradox with remarkable consistency, offering neither cynicism nor idealism, but a tempered realism that respects the intelligence of its audience. In the final analysis, what makes The Streets of San Francisco enduring is its commitment to honesty over excitement, to depicting work as it is rather than as it is wished to be, and One Last Trick serves as a fitting encapsulation of this ethos, reminding us that the most powerful narratives are often the ones that refuse to resolve neatly, instead inviting ongoing reflection long after the screen fades to black.